All right, well, welcome everybody. As folks are trickling in, I'm just going to get us started by running a little slideshow here to thank our many generous members. And here we go. So I think you all know that the Climate Center is a membership organization, and many of the organizations and companies here are part of our family of supporters. And we just want to take a moment to allow everyone to see the logos of all the fantastic businesses that care as much about the climate as the Climate Center, which is saying a lot because we care about it very, very much. And we appreciate all of you who are able to be members at whatever level. And in a little while, I'm going to take a moment to thank specifically those who've joined recently or renewed their memberships. And this is just a great opportunity for additional people to join our meeting, because I know sometimes it takes people a little while, especially this early in the morning, to kind of get into gear and get things rolling. But then after we're done with this, I'm going to just say a few words, and then I'm going to introduce our first speaker, who's going to be Chad from Sonoma Clean Power, and then Ellie Cohen, our CEO, is going to introduce our main speaker, State Senator Henry Stern, who's going to talk about what's happening in Sacramento. We can expect a lot this year since the pandemic put so many things on hold. There's, I think, a lot of sort of backed up business, especially around the area of climate, which of course is so critical to us all. And I'm glad to see Ruben and Allie and so many other folks have joined us here. And so thank you all for bearing with me. And I am going to go ahead and get started. Let me just check real quick, make sure no one else has texted me, said they had trouble getting in. Everyone looks like they're here. So welcome everybody. Carrie Fargo, welcome. Chris, Nathan, Jenna, so glad to see all of you here with us this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I want to thank everybody once again for taking time out of your busy life and time out of your morning to join us here at the Climate Center's quarterly business breakfast. As you know, this is something we always took pride in and pleasure in gathering in person. We've done it at Sonoma Clean Power, Redwood Credit Union, and many of our other members' offices and locations. And it was always great to get together, share a little bit of breakfast and a bagel, and hear from great speakers. Of course, with the pandemic, we can't quite do that. So we're doing it virtually until we can get together. So I want to welcome you all and thank you for taking the time to be here. And I just want to acknowledge how tough this year has been. This is the last business breakfast of the weirdest year ever. But through it all, through all the struggles and challenges, through fire and smoke and evacuations, and of course, this pandemic and the economic downturn, I think we've also seen a lot of signs of hope. Communities have rallied, and California and the nation, we hope and expect, will emerge from this stronger than ever. The vaccine is here, and it seems that the light at the end of the tunnel appears to actually be sunshine and not an onrushing diesel train. So today, we're going to hear some of the good news, news from our friends at Sonoma Clean Power and some of the great things that they're doing. And we're going to hear about some of the legislation that's coming up and some of the things we can look forward to as we build towards a climate-safe California, which is a 21st century economy that all of us believe in. In fact, Climate Safe California is exactly one of the things we can look forward to in 2021. The Climate Center has been working very hard to advance this ambitious set of policies that can get the Golden State to net zero carbon, building an economy that's clean, affordable, resilient, equitable, and safe. We call that CARES, the 5 pillars: clean, affordable, resilient, equitable, and safe. Many of you have already endorsed, as have over 700 other businesses, elected officials, and individuals. And for that, we thank you. If you have not, I'm going to ask my colleague, Barry Vesser, to drop a link into the chat when he gets a moment. And you can always click on that link and find out more and endorse Climate Safe California and join Senator Henry Stern, who I see is with us now as part of our family of endorsers. So I'd like to just take a moment once again to thank all of the new members and renewed members, Clean Tech Communications, Christine Bennett, I see you here, Soul Solutions, Willow Creek Financial, Summit State Bank, LabCon, Guayaquil, Hobo Wines, Work Petaluma, thank you, Natasha, Redwood Empire, Stereocasters, Strauss Creamery, Scarborough Financial, Recology, Sonoma Marin, and Calpine, all of which have endorsed or upped their memberships just in the last few months. So what a great family of companies. I see some applause. I want to thank you all for being a part of this incredible family of organizations and part of this incredible team that we've built. So Senator Stern, thank you for being here. Before we turn to you, we do have one other speaker. So we're going to take about 5 minutes. I'd like to just do our member spotlight, which is something we do every time, give one of our members a chance to talk about the latest and greatest programs related to climate. Today, we're happy to welcome Sonoma Clean Power, our local community choice energy provider. And Chad AC is going to be sharing a couple of slides. Take it away, Chad. Tell us what's going on at Sonoma Clean Power. You're muted, my friend.
Sorry about that, audio difficulties. Good morning, my name is Chad Acey. I'm the lead locally programs manager at Sonoma Clean Power. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about our Advanced Energy Center that's coming your way in downtown Santa Rosa, as well as a couple programs related to the lead locally program. First off, who is Sonoma Clean Power? We are a not-for-profit public agency. We serve both Sonoma and Mendocino counties, and we're governed by our board of directors, which is made up mostly of the local elected officials, or all local elected officials in most of the cities and the counties of Sonoma and Mendocino. And we serve approximately 550,000 residents in both of those counties. We provide their power for them. A little bit about the Lead Locally project. The Lead Locally project was a state-funded grant meant to try to uncover the market barriers for energy efficiency technologies in our area. And we uncovered 3 different barriers. One is the customer product knowledge and availability, contractors' engagement to those products, and also financial barriers. To overcome the contract or the customer's product knowledge, we wanted to develop a space that allows and displays those energy efficiency technologies up front without being hidden behind fossil fuel or other lower cost technologies and appliances. And so for that reason, we've created our Advanced Energy Center, which is coming to this community in downtown Santa Rosa on 4th Street. It's the old Stan Roy's Music Center. We've put almost $5 million in design and construction costs to renovate this space and build a cooperative marketplace. We've built a great relationship of trust with our community, and we're hoping that this center becomes a location of trust that every homeowner or business owner, when they're thinking about what do they need to put in their home that's most efficient or effective, and also aligns with the mission of what is combative to the climate change, you would want to go to this space, the Advanced Energy Center, to see what is displayed there and what new emerging technologies are coming out to our community. We also wanted to connect the contractors with those technologies and connect the customer base with certified contractors. And for that reason, we've developed an education program at the Advanced Energy Center. We're already kicking off that education program. It's being recorded right now in webinars, and we're displaying that through an e-library. It will be displayed on our Advanced Energy Center website. And we will have physical opportunities to have classes there on site at the Advanced Energy Center once it's up and running. And as you mentioned before, this is another great opportunity for this group to have another public space to meet that aligns with your mission. So this will be a great spot for you to meet on site once things are a little safer. A couple featured products that are coming that will be displayed and deployed out of that Advanced Energy Center is electric heat pump water heaters. You have induction cooktop and ranges, air sealing, and enhanced insulation. This is incredible. We have some new insulation materials and aero barrier and aero seal technologies that really can both improve energy efficiency, also air quality during fire events or other unsafe times of the year. But do know that we will not have any gas or propane products at the Advanced Energy Center. The contractor benefits for participating, and why I'm presenting to you all today is in hopes that you might know of a contractor, an electrician, a plumber. You want to get them connected with the Advanced Energy Center so that they can increase their business. They'll get to meet with customers on site, and they'll be able to display and demonstrate exactly how these technologies work and sound, and they'll get to show these technologies that could be installed in their homes. They'll be connected to a list of customers who are interested in the product. So it will instantly give them hot leads to more business. They'll be able to get specially negotiated discounted prices. Well, we've asked every brand or manufacturer who's participating through this Advanced Energy Center, they get to participate for free. So our only ask to them is to give us the best lowest local price of those products. And then Sonoma Clean Power is going to incentivize those products even further. And then the third barrier that we uncovered beyond contractor engagement was the financial barriers. So beyond the manufacturer discounts and Sonoma Clean Power discounts, we look to add on-bill finance, a loan program up to $10,000 over a 10-year period at 0% finance. They'll be able to experience that, have that loan available to them to cover those capital costs up front that might lead to long-term benefits and long-term energy savings on their energy bill. Our website is really going to be unique. We have had to really put emphasis on our website because of COVID and the shelter in place and the need to have a better outreach to the community north of us in Mendocino. So we've put a lot of work into our website. The website is coming soon. It will give the contractors and the customers an easy ability to connect with each other. You'll be able to pick from a list of technologies, certified contractors, and you'll be able to get multiple bids and choose from those bids which contractor you want to go with. And then you can choose from that list of contractors, even further contractors who are eligible for on-bill finance. On-bill finance, as I mentioned before, is a 0% loan program up to $10,000 for approved customers. It's residential customers only right now, but you can help get that project paid. It will cover both the equipment and direct ancillary or equipment costs and installation costs that could be applied to that equipment installation. Real quickly, and recap of all this, the easy way to get started is to just visit our Advanced Energy Center on 4th Street or the website as they become available publicly in the next coming weeks. Attend any of our free short trainings. If you're an installer or a contractor, or you know a contractor, there are product technology trainings that they can be certified for, or there's the on-bill finance course, and I can email those to you or get you in contact with our team to get you connected as a certified contractor. And then sign those memorandum of understandings to participate through the Advanced Energy Center and use this space as an opportunity to increase your business and help improve the energy efficiency market. And I'm available for questions. Here's a direct number for our team if you have any questions about the Advanced Energy Center, as well as our direct email to the Advanced Energy Center team as well. And again, available for any questions should you have any.
Thank you so much, Chad. I really appreciate that, and want to just recognize Sonoma Clean Power for all their leadership in this and so many other areas. It's one of the points of pride here in Sonoma County, and I know it's been something that's been spreading throughout the state. So thank you for showing the way for other communities also. You may notice a question just came in through the chat. If you want to address that through the chat, you're welcome to do so. And please do keep those questions coming, and we'll try to do them. We will have some time for Q&A with the senator in a little bit, which brings me to our next speaker, State Senator Henry Stern. And to introduce the senator, I'd like to welcome our CEO, Ellie Cohen, to just say a couple of words to introduce the senator, our main speaker today. Go ahead, Ellie.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Duran, thanks for the fantastic introduction. Chad, that's so exciting with Sonoma Clean Power and the Advanced Energy Center. I love no gas or propane products. Go Sonoma Clean Power. And welcome, Senator Stern. Great to see you and have you with us this morning. Senator Henry Stern is a 6th-generation Californian and native of the greater Los Angeles area, who has represented the nearly 1 million residents of the 27th Senate District since first being elected in November 2016. Senator Stern has chaired the Senate Natural Resources and Water Committee since 2018, where he's worked tirelessly to bolster the state's wildfire preparedness, push to have the state address the climate change emergency, improve our democracy, and fight to help some of California's most vulnerable members. He also sits on the Senate's Budget, Judiciary, Environmental Quality, Elections and Constitutional Amendments, and Energy, Utilities, and Communications Committees. We had the opportunity to work with Senator Stern this year on a piece of legislation for microgrids to back up critical facilities. But because of COVID, not much related legislation was passed this year. Senator Stern has worked on and passed a number of bills related to climate and energy that have become law. I'll just mention a few. SB 1320 requires the Governor's Office of Planning and Research to conduct a California-specific climate change assessment to determine the costs and risks faced by Californians if the state fails to address the climate emergency. Thank you, Senator Stern. SB 1477 required the California Energy Commission to develop a statewide incentive for people to install low emission space and water heating equipment in their homes and non-residential buildings. Fantastic. SB 801 required Southern California Edison and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power to deploy cost-effective grid-connected energy storage solutions that would also reduce the demand for natural gas, a critical step forward. And SB 1339 required the California Public Utilities Commission to make it financially feasible for customers of electric utilities to develop microgrids and connect them with the existing electrical system by creating separate electrical rates and tariffs as needed. This would unleash private capital to develop microgrids at scale. The Climate Center has worked at the Public Utility Commission to support the implementation of SB 1339 through a rulemaking proceeding this year. I'm sorry to say, we don't feel like that agency got it entirely right. And Senator Stern's going to talk to us today about whether he is considering a legislative remedy for that. He'll also share with us his thoughts on what other climate and energy legislation may be considered at the state legislature this year, and what the session might look like with COVID restrictions continuing and a big budget deficit. But we're thrilled to have you, Senator Stern. Please join me, everyone, in welcoming Senator Henry Stern today. Thank you.
Kelly. What a pleasure to be with you. And hey, those of you who don't watch the Climate Center's day-to-day advocacy work in the Capitol, you all have burst onto the scene. I know it's not a brand new organization, but in terms of actually getting the kind of refined and strategic oomph, I don't know, for lack of a better word, you've arrived. And Ellie, you're a huge part of that. And I'm grateful to you and the rest of your staff. It's Barry and Duran and all the members. It's a benevolent little machine you've built there. And the equity partners you got on this call, when you guys were running through your roll call, I'm not surprised. You're an epicenter for progressive business thinking. It's an interesting synthesis of environmental goals and sort of market goals that align quite well. If you actually just take into account the cost of climate change, things tend to line up a little better with our morality. So you're indispensable at this point. So whatever you've started, you're now obligated to continue it and do more. So, that's your burden to bear, but I'm going to be counting on you. I also want to say we've been through it down in Southern California with all these fires, and I know you all have too. And my heart goes out to all the businesses and all the people who have lost. And then on top of it, this pandemic, it is amazing that we somehow keep going here. You'd think we'd have some biblical curse against us with the rate of it all. But I hate to say it, but we ain't seen nothing yet. And, in terms of the sustainability of your watershed, add some flood risk on top, sea level rise and saltwater intrusion, add that on top of wildfires and grid instability. And, I don't know, we can keep going. Disease vectors. It's going to be a really tough couple decades here. And I guess, I started out my career as just a climate change attorney. That was my training. I went to Cal and sort of dug in there and got in the whole Bay Area, that sort of hub of thinking. And I went off and worked in Congress on the very first big climate change bill we actually tried to move in Congress, Waxman-Markey. I was an attorney for Henry Waxman at the time. That was in 2009. So the last time we had an administration who said, yes, let's do something about climate. It'll be interesting to see if, at the federal level, what kind of action it starts to occur in Congress. And the House has passed some important bills, but I got frustrated. We got a bill out of the House and nothing happened. And I said, I want to do something. So started to look at Sacramento. And this capital is, I mean, most of you on this call, I think, are pretty sophisticated players. Go Bears, by the way, Andrew. Yes, sir. Pretty sophisticated players, but I don't think many people realize what a fulcrum you've got in Sacramento to make serious market shifts and big changes. And so when I started working there, I guess I might have got a false read on my run, because I was staff counsel initially, and we were passing AB 32 and then SB 32 and just, globally path-breaking pieces of legislation, and target setting, SB 100, SB 350, some major bills. I would say my first 4 years in office, which just ended, I heard your list there, Ellie, and I'm excited about all those bills. Really matter, right? Getting our natural gas surcharges to help get us off natural gas, great. Microgrids, absolutely. But I've been actually frustrated with the pace of progress over the last 4 years. And I think in some ways, it's easy to take for granted having, the Fran Pavley's up there, or the Mark Leno's up there, or the Lois Wolks, or the, whoever it is, Christine Kehoe from down in San Diego. But people all the time were pushing the envelope. And, I've seen us be somewhat productive, and there's been a series of sort of individual bills that I think cumulatively will matter, but the notion that climate is a priority even during a pandemic, I think has been lost on a lot of the membership. And that was my biggest frustration, I'll say, last year, is like, the state's on fire, and we had a chance to give the voters of California an opportunity to vote on a climate change bond. Pretty modest bond, by the way. It's a $5.5 billion bond. The polling was through the roof, even during the pandemic, even while, the toughest impacts are happening in our communities and people are struggling, and EDD and, bankruptcy and all the rest. But people still said, yeah. And I also don't want my home to burn down. And I also want to invest in my community and build resilience and do those kinds of investments that Chad was just talking about in advanced energy centers, and have hubs in their communities. And the bond had all those pieces in it: funding for clean backup power and resiliency centers, and more sort of nature-based climate solutions, and investing in natural and working lands, and a bunch of wildfire prevention, not just suppression, right? It wasn't just about throwing money at the firefighting budget, but about stopping it in the first place. But couldn't quite get there. And I think you guys have got a lift on your hands. I would say, not to point fingers, because this is what we like to do when you have all Democrats in charge. Everyone likes to sort of say who done it. But the Assembly does need, their priority last year was a school bond, and that was really important. I say we could have done both. But I've not gotten indication from Assembly leadership yet this year that putting climate on the front burner is really going to be a priority. Whether it's battling over issues of neighborhood oil and gas drilling, accelerating SB 100, codifying, and I'm actually interested in accelerating, going beyond the governor's former carbon neutrality goals for 2045. I actually think science doesn't allow us to be on that track. I think we should actually be going faster, and I think we should be going beyond neutral. Neutral's so neutral. We want to go below zero. We've actually got to get into carbon removal. We have to reverse climate change, not just sort of keep things, somewhat destructive and apocalyptic. Like, I'm not okay with semi-apocalyptic circumstances being my kids' and grandkids' future. Like, I'd like to just not have everybody on fire or flooding. So really starting to harness the carbon sinks we've got in this state by properly managing our forests, or leveraging incredible agricultural producers who have been the heart of this state for so long. Folks like Strauss out there are like pushing the needle, but we haven't given them the tools to be able to do the kind of regenerative agriculture or the kind of carbon farming that we're interested in. So I want to see, ambition and boldness, and make no mistake, it's not, none of this stuff is easy, and the politics of it are quite tough. We've got a lot of incumbent players, and you need to be a little iconoclastic if you want to get things done here. But look, we're going to build on in the details of some of the legislation that we've run and other folks have run to really try to get the gears of the PUC or the Energy Commission or some of these key agencies moving. You mentioned the microgrid proceeding. We're working on a response to that proposed decision, for example, saying thanks, for focusing on low-income and vulnerable communities, but we want an interconnection process that doesn't have, non-bypassable charges and all these sort of impediments to sparking that marketplace. So we are going to kind of keep pounding away. But the idea, at least we're playing with internally right now, is to try to do something big and collective, and really go beyond what our legacy is in the AB 32 context of a sort of big sort of point source model, and try to do something that's more integrated, that actually brings the whole economy into the conversation, and that isn't really a conversation even about has the oil industry buy a bunch of offsets in agriculture. It's not even an offsets kind of conversation, right? It's trying to harness the carbon removal economy, and at the same time not give any free passes out there, but try to hold our pole position here, because we're doing amazing stuff in California, make no mistake, and your members are leading that effort, but we're still a petro state too. We consume more petroleum in California than any other nation on earth, except for, I think, US, China, US military, and then California. So our complicity in this climate crisis is not just, that we haven't done enough at a policy level. We're actively making the problem. So the governor put out some big executive orders, and I've been pushing him and nudging him to be bold, and that, substance is really the only thing that will get us through this harrowing politics of the pandemic, where everyone's going to start to second guess each other and lose trust and hate politicians and hate government. And there's a real dangerous sentiment brewing out there. But my thesis is just, let's just make progress and show and actually solve people's problems. And then maybe that'll build some durability back into our politics again. And I think climate is the place to start. So anyway, I'm game to do some Q&A if you guys want. I saw Ali Detrio here on the microgrid proceeding. We can talk anything you want, cars or power systems. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on the list that I've missed. There is. It's a big, long list. But building decarb, we didn't get into that. You touched on 1477 a little bit, Ellie. You got about $500 million piling up. PUC hasn't spent a dime yet on that. Everyone's sort of trying to figure out how to design the program or what to do. When somebody who can't afford its furnace breaks, why are we throwing in another gas furnace? Why we've got cost-effective solutions now. We're not even trying to start with saying we're taking away everyone's stove, right? That's what the gas industry wants to make it a fear about how to make eggs in the morning. Don't give in to that sort of those dog whistles being sent that the anti-gas community is going to take away your quality of life and hurt poor people. You are going to see that messaging come out. But I think that far from it, we're just trying to cut people's bills and make them a little more reliable. And no one really cares how like they take a hot shower or that their heating works. They just want the heat on or their shower to be hot. So I feel like we got to get that money moving and start showing people, not just telling people about a decarbonized building sector, but we got to show it. So I feel like folks like Sonoma Clean Power and some of your other partners are actually really good arbiters for that kind of program. So we're going to try to come up with a design there too, and would certainly appreciate Climate Center's input as we nudge the PUC to get a decision done in the next couple of months. I was just talking to Rec Shop, and I mean, we're going to be nudging for the next few months. I'd like to see dollars out the door this year. So anyhow, thanks. Yeah. You want to facilitate this? I'm looking at, I'll read the chat as we go if you got.
Sure, no problem. Thank you, Senator Stern. Really appreciate it, and definitely look at the chat. I'm going to call on a couple of people here. If anybody wants to raise their hand, if they got a pressing question, you can do that, or you can drop your question in the chat. I see a couple of those are in there. To get us started, I'd like to recognize Jenna Price, who's with our consultant, Tratton Price in Sacramento, and I believe that you guys know each other. And so Jenna's going to pepper you with some questions and perhaps give a little perspective from Sacramento.
And I didn't mention it. I mean, praise goes to the organization, but part of your arrival from an advocacy perspective is going and finding like those savvy, hall walking, arm twisting, benevolent lobbyists. I don't even think Jenna ever wants to be called a lobbyist because, I knew her when she was grinding it out with the League of Conservation Voters and an activist and a volunteer, but like pulling those wheels of power and making them turn. She is a very rare commodity up there. I will tell you, a very, very rare kind of asset to have where her entire portfolio is like, it's all good guys. And she's there to be trusted, and the environmental community needs to be feared a little bit. We can't just be like, oh, they're good guys. Oh, whatever. Yeah, they love climate change. No, like I want people when Jenna shows up in their office and says, where's your vote on this? Like, uh-oh. And she has that gravitas. So, or I don't know. I won't call it, you're not intimidating because you're nice to me, but I like when you twist arms, Jenna. So twist my arm just for the sake of everyone here.
Be intimidating. Thanks, Senator. I'll see my way out of there. There's nothing else to add. That was really nice. I have had the good fortune of knowing Senator Stern before he was a senator and before I was a lobbyist. We used to spend, I hope I'm not revealing too much, Senator, but for the better part of a decade, we would just brainstorm what it actually looked like to do something on climate, something impactful. We'd think through the politics of it. And I think, so often that idea of it's a good idea, so it should pass and become a law is, especially in California, something that you just sort of assume the pathway is there. And as the senator laid out, I thought really well, that's just not always the case in California. So I got a couple questions for you. Mine are going to lean a little bit more politically, because I think one of the things that I want to note about the senator too, that you don't see a lot in the rest of the legislative body, or at least across the board, is the real adept understanding of the policy, the internal working dynamics of the regulatory function, and also the understanding of the political. And you have to have both, I think, to be effective. And Henry has shown both of those very well. So two questions. One is, and I think, Ellie and I have confronted this a little bit as we talked to other legislators in our campaign on the Climate Safe California campaign. We absolutely have to get these goals in place. We absolutely have to expedite and move up the targets that we currently have. We have to set stronger targets that don't currently exist. In the absence of, and I appreciate that you mentioned that the governor has put out 2 executive orders, but never one to bite my tongue. In the absence of an actual climate plan that California does not have, that the federal government is now beating us, the incoming federal government is now beating us at, it does seem incumbent upon the legislature to take that bold action. But we are also in time of financial strain, and these things cost money. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on how we can advance these goals while recognizing that we still have to lead in a space of austerity. And then my other question is really simple. It's just about labor. So,
And they're related questions.
They are
They
related questions.
They are related questions. And I think, tactics matter and framing actually matters. And I think we've got to do away, in my view, with the idea of this just transition concept, and starting the conversation with like, hey, so we're going to put 30,000 people out of work with this new climate plan. Okay, let's solve from there. Like, that's not a good way to start any conversation. I think, leading with a jobs and justice first investment approach and really talking about the upsides, and then adjoining that to the science-based targets we know we need is the flip. When you saw AB 32 or SB 32 passed or SB 100, it was very, very much, we were trying to sell the actual mechanics. We're trying to say, we're getting to 80% below 1990 by 2050, or we want to be 20% below like 1990 by 2030, or like 100 by 2045, or 90 by this date. Yes, we need all that, right? And we're working on a big, series of targets based on your climate safe targets, that I think we have to put out there and be super ambitious about and be unapologetic about, and say, it's not like, we're not picking these out of, thin air. Like, we have to do this. But I think, do we try to sell mechanics, right? And do we try to sell the targets and the numbers as sort of a means unto themselves? Or to your second question, do we start with frontline communities and workers and talk about the economic upside, right? The recovery potential to going big here. And then, oh, by the way, here's like, that's, it's not sugar to make the medicine go down, but it's that kind of concept. It's gonna taste a lot different if we set things up that way. So I think the bond's a part of that. But I also think like putting the right kind of funds together and really upping our game when it comes to look at a pipe fitter or an electrical worker. If we tell them like, no, we're done with you, we're just transitioning. Okay, you're gonna have warfare on your hands with the building trades then. But if you say, actually, we'd like to build a series of interconnected, clean and resilient communities that can island off the grid and survive these fires. But, oh, by the way, we really need your help installing all this stuff. Or, on the water side, we need more water recycling, stormwater capture, other kinds of local water resilience, so we don't all have to rely on the state water project and pumping and all these unsustainable uses. So we need some pipes. Why don't we go do $10 billion worth of water sustainability work? That's a different way to start a conversation. So I think that's what we're looking at doing this year, is not shying away from either the labor critique or the justice critique that, electric vehicles, clean distributed energy, these are precious commodities for the precious among us, for those who can afford it. We cannot get branded as those who are sort of the elites and those who aren't in touch with what's really going on out there. So that's how we're going to approach this thing, but can't also then apologize on the target side. Like, I want to start pursuing, again, a carbon negative California. If anyone's got any good ideas, by the way, on the framing, carbon negative sounds negative. Neutral sounds neutral. So I'm not that excited about neutral, but I also like negative is kind of negative. Anyway, still, we're going to start, we're trying to put together some real polling and really drive a politically managed campaign around all this stuff. And I think that's what it's going to take. You've got a lot of members who do want to do it. There's a good core group, and Mike McGuire, for instance, in your area is like just an excellent partner and rock solid, always in energy committee and resources. But we need more. We need your assembly members fired up about it wherever you live. I need co-conspirators here. So I'm doing that sort of team building exercise behind the scenes right now. You have 2 really progressive new transportation chairs, so that's a good thing. I think you've got an exciting new Assembly Natural Resources chair, a woman named Luz Rivas, who's from the Pacoima area, that just had a giant gas power plant poison her whole community, from the front lines of EJ. So I think you got potential, but yeah, we're gonna do something big this year. And look, even if you can't get it done the first year of the 2-year session, there's why walk something out that's gonna be half of what we need? Like, we actually need to articulate the vision. And it's not like we're not gonna go try to sell the Green New Deal to everybody. I mean, just to be clear here, like, I think we actually need to reorient that conversation too and say, okay, you guys can all fight about what that means or just transition, but like, let's actually put it down on paper and show what we're talking about here and articulate it, and then just be uncompromising about that. I'm not going to sort of try to be so covetous of victory right out the gates or consensus right out the gates that we end up compromising. I think we actually have to put something out that's path breaking and bold, and then be willing not to get there right away, and then just slog it out and pound it out for votes. Yeah, I'm more ambitious than ever, even though the stakes are higher and more harrowing.
Thank you, Senator Stern, and thank you, Jenna. I'd like to take a couple more minutes for our Q&A, because there's some great questions coming in from some of our members, and
Okay.
I'd just like to give you a chance to address.
I'll be quick. I'll be more lightning round, less pontificate-y. Sorry.
No worries. I see Dan Lambert from Pathways Energy asked a good question about the CPUC.
Yes.
and net energy metering.
Yes.
This is getting a little more granular here. So
it's huge. And
Yes.
and look, the microgrid issue raises that same interconnection tension, right? And it's a different scale than just a individualized DG solar storage system, but it does get at some of the underlying tensions and heresies that like no one wants to quite touch, or this notion of cost shifting, that those who go off the grid are imposing a cost on those who are left behind, and that there's some great inequity in that. That's what's, to Dan's question, I mean, that's what's providing the legislature room to keep putting pressure, say, on the PUC to stick with the utilities and prevent, abilities to say, go over the fence. Like, the over the fence rule is something that most people don't ever want to talk about or seems crazy. But if you're on the end of a street and you live in whatever, in Sonoma County or out in, far north LA County, and you don't have the means to say build an entire microgrid for your street, and yet your power keeps getting shut on and off in PSPS events, why shouldn't you be able to take advantage, say, of the self-generation incentive program or one of these other incentive programs, but then not just be able to use that on site for yourself, but move that over the fence to your neighbor's house and maybe a group of your neighbor's house, and build oversized DG systems in lieu of some giant microgrid, but just plotting those assets strategically, and then being able to get the wiring right so you don't have to hook up to the distribution grid. Like, those are things that I think the utilities are starting to read the writing on the wall and say, like, we might have to broach that subject. We might have to go there. So we're going to look, we had bills that got all held up in Assembly Energy last year, but we're going to look again at just sort of piloting very creative DG policy and pushing in this microgrid proceeding as a place for them to do some of that experimentation, to get a tariff rate going that's actually going to be financeable, and to deal with some of those non-bypassable charges. So I don't think money is just the key to this. I think the regulations are going to matter, but PUC has not taken on their update yet to, I guess it's net metering 3.0 or 4.0. They've taken a few cuts at it, but this central underlying economic tension of who causes the cost and who bears the load is the fundamental math there. And we've got to make the case that DG is the equitable solution, and that just keeping the old way is unsustainable.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that great question. And lastly, and I want to just recognize Ali Detrio's question. Do we let perfection be the enemy of the good? This could be a big one, but if you could lightning your way through this question, how do we balance prudence, and with getting things done?
Yeah, so I mean, and I sort of read in her allusion, like the way I wrote 1339, or the way I actually had to write it in the end to get it out of Assembly Energy Committee, was we did have to kind of soften it, or say give some deference to the PUC, give some flexibility. I think it's shall consider adopting tariffs, or shall develop a tariff. Must develop the tariff, but when to actually impose it, or what the structure of that tariff ought to be, or does it actually include, an end to some of these interconnection costs? We weren't prescriptive, but that's also that it wasn't because we weren't aware of those issues. The issues that we're facing in this microgrid proceeding were the same political issues we faced in Assembly Energy Committee. The people weren't ready to go for it. The utilities weren't up for that. Their lawyers scrutinized this stuff very, very closely. And the IBEW does too. And it wasn't for lack of intentionality. It was that, like, this more sort of nuanced, deferential approach was what I could muscle through the legislature at the time. So now the real question is, does the PUC want to be leaders, and do they want to actually make policy, which they do one way or another? They may say they don't want to, but do they actually want to take a chance and sort of move the needle, or do they want to defer to us and say the governor? But I think, lobbying the governor on this stuff is not a bad idea. And I think there's value in that. And I think that, he appointed the new president of the Public Utilities Commission. And I think she's in a tough spot where this bankruptcy has been traumatic for everybody, and everyone's in sort of a foxhole, and no one really wants to take big chances on things like microgrids right now. But I don't think we can win this fight by playing defense. So I'm trying to encourage them to be bullish, experimental, and maybe perfect enemy of the good, or it's more like trying to get them to realize that this isn't that much of a risk. They're very risk averse right now, and very rate sensitive. And so I think trying to give Sharoma and Rechtschaffen and all these commissioners space to move the needle and get a good new commissioner in the spot. Leanne Randolph just left and took over the air board, so we need a couple good new appointees. Push this governor. Let's see boldness in the new appointments. And I think he wants that pressure. I think he's looking for it. I think it's healthy. So I think you guys are in a good spot to do so. I can't yell over the hill and have him hear me. I think you guys are in shouting distance. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Yes, we are. We are, and we do plan on doing a lot more shouting. And thank you for being a partner of ours, Senator Stern, and thank you for sharing what we believe is such a sense of urgency about this critical issue, which kind of trumps all the other issues in a way. When you talk about economy, infrastructure, and the climate sits over all of that.
Let's get rid of that verb, though. Let's go. Don't make it trump anything. Let's just.
You're right.
Let's transcend.
Exactly right.
Okay, good.
Yeah. No more of that word, bad word. Thank you. So we do have some bold plans. Actually, one of the reasons that you're here with us today is we are shifting into a much larger role throughout the state of California. I do want to recognize that we have some folks here in this meeting from outside the Bay Area. We have Ruben from Better World Group.
Great.
We have some folks even from Colorado with us. John's here. So I want to acknowledge that because the Climate Center really sees this is a much bigger issue than what we can handle alone here in the North Bay. So we need to ally ourselves with folks in Southern California and up and down the state. And we really want to thank you for being a part of this. I'd like to just ask everyone to just take a moment to just thank the senator for being here. Clap physically, virtually. Everyone's clapping around their coffee.
Emoji, and I'll be good. I'm fine.
All right. Okay. So, but we do need to take a moment here to just sort of run through some of our members. One of the things we love to do is give all of our members a chance to just update each other. We used to do that in person back in the pre-COVID or pre-vid days, where we would all gather around the coffee. Wait, what's going on in your business? So we've got about 10 or a little bit more minutes left. I want to just sort of recognize some of our members. If you don't want to speak, just wave me off. But I'd love it if you could take a moment. I'm just going to run through some of the members that I see, kind of in order that I see you. if you definitely do want to speak, please raise your hand. But Carrie, I see you there. You've been with us this whole meeting. Do you want to take a moment, Carrie Fargo, and just give us a quick 30, 45-second update on what's up with your business and what's new in your world?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm unmuted,
Yes.
sounds like. It was just running through my mind, actually. It's not that the real estate profession is, as a whole, is, pushing for, green everything. But I'm noting a lot of the new, it's just happening in spite of itself, even with opposition to a lot of these ideas. For example, I'm noticing a friend of mine, a neighbor, it's Michael and Sons, I believe they're a sponsor or affiliated with us somehow. They're putting in a solar battery system residential package a week, and they're a small company. So a lot of the COVID refugees are flooding the real estate market right now in the county. Are, they're younger, sophisticated, have a lot of disposable income, even under present circumstances. And it's just interesting to point out that that's what they're spending some of their disposable money on. That was just coming through my mind before you called on me.
Perfect.
So
COVID refugees installing mini microgrids.
Yeah.
That's very 2020 right there.
Yeah,
Really.
so cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie, and thank you for bringing your perspective from the real estate market. We appreciate it. I'm just going to sort of work through. If I see your camera on, I'm going to call you. So if you want to get called on, turn on your camera. Natasha, I see you there. Work Petaluma, a co-working space. Very difficult in the age of COVID. What can you tell us about what's happening in your world?
Not so good. Yeah, so we had to shut down we had 2 locations in Petaluma. We shut half of one of the locations at the end of October when my lease ran up. So we had moved the workspace outside. Actually, we had a big courtyard, so that was nice for the summer. But yeah, then we had smoke and 112-degree weather, and yeah, it was a mess. But the building that we do have left the landlord put solar on a year ago. And so that was very exciting. And now she wants to look into working with me to put a battery backup and also a car charger. So that's going to be my next task, is figuring out how to do that on the commercial building.
Perfect.
So
Happy to help.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you, Natasha. Dan, you asked a question, but we'd love to hear from Pathways Energy. Do you want to take a moment and just give us a little update on what's happening in your company from the perspective of a solar company?
Yes, actually, the big scare coming up at the end of 2021 is NEM 3.0, and the investor-owned utilities are doing everything they can to make it as terrible as they can for behind-the-meter solar. The other thing I wanted to mention, though, is something which has come up very recently in Santa Rosa, where it's become virtually impossible to get a permit for battery storage in the city of Santa Rosa, because they implemented a new permitting process at the beginning of September, I think it was, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. And we've been working on one permit since at least for 2.5 months, and it's just crazy. So I just want to comment on that.
Thank you for continuing to work hard to get things done, even in the face of bureaucratic and other hurdles. It's always a challenge for small businesses, especially at times like this. I do see a couple other folks here that I'd like to call on. Justin Strawn with the Y Green Energy Fund, standing in front of a very calm looking body of water. Just for the record, by the way, this is not my house behind me. I just want to make sure everyone knows that. Justin, why don't you take a moment to tell us a little about what's going on at Y Green Energy Fund, another one of our supporters and big members of our organization.
Yeah, well, that body of water is Lake Tahoe, so one of our very important bodies of water in the state of California, for sure. Yeah, but in Y Green, we actually had just celebrated our kind of 10-year anniversary in California. We had funded $1 billion worth of climate resiliency projects in the state of California, so that was kind of exciting, but now we're gearing up to try and address financing for wildfire resiliency. Clearly an issue for Sonoma County, and we're hoping we can mobilize quite a bit of private capital to solve that problem. So that's what we're focused on, at least right now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. If anybody else would like to speak, I see if your camera's Christine Bennett, I see you there. You're one of our newest members, Clean Tech Communications. Your camera's not on, but I'd love to give you a chance to say a couple of words about what's happening. You're in touch with a lot of clean energy companies. Tell us what your take on the situation is.
Yeah, thanks for that. And thank you, Senator. Really appreciate all the work that you're doing and everyone here on this call. I guess my message today is one of optimism, despite all the challenges of this year and all that we see out there. I have the pleasure of working every day with some of the really, really interesting innovators in the technology space. And so from my perspective, things are more exciting than ever. The breakthroughs that we're seeing on, renewables, smart charging. And I just announced for a client this huge EV bus fleet in St. Louis, of all places. So if it can be done there, right, it can be done anywhere. So I feel like I have the unique perspective of optimism and understanding that there are solutions out there. To your point, then of course there's issues of integration and permitting and all the rest. But I think my message today is that there's hope and there are solutions, and it's exciting times.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Christine. Just a couple more folks with their cameras on. And I'd like to remind everybody, and Tom Bickford, I'll get to you too. I'm going to call on Andrew Cameron next, and then Tom, you'll be next. So Andrew, EPR squared, we just have a couple minutes left.
Sure.
What would you like to share with us?
Just wanted to offer that we're very excited. We just finished what we think might be the largest solar project for a multi-tenant commercial investment property. So that's very exciting. Typically wouldn't see that happen with a PPA or PACE financing. And I also wanted to mention, Carrie mentioned this earlier about batteries. It's interesting to hear Santa Rosa was a great permitting partner for rooftop solar. So they're doing really well on that end. And lastly, we have quite a bit of capital ready for distributed resource assets. And really the final piece in all that for us is just to understand what the value is going to be on the back end. So Senator, the more we push on that, you have partners that have capital ready to do these things. If we can just get guidance from either CPUC or whomever those off takers are going to be, we're ready to pull the trigger. So thank you for the time. Appreciate it, Dorian.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And before I call on you, Tom, I just want to say a couple more things. One, Climate Safe California. If you haven't endorsed, the link is back in the chat. Thank you, Barry. I also want to mention to everybody that we do a lot of other webinars and programs. We have one tomorrow, as a matter of fact, on batteries on wheels, about, if you're going to buy energy storage, why not buy it in the form of a car? What does the future of that look like? That is a webinar happening tomorrow at 11 o'clock. You can find out more about that. Perhaps Ellie or Barry can drop a link in the chat if you don't mind doing so. I see she looks like she's doing that. And we also have a very exciting webinar series launching at the end of January on Climate Safe California, which you'll all be hearing a lot more about. So Tom Bickford, you put your hand up, you turned your camera on. I know you got something you want to share with us. Please go ahead.
No, I just want to say that things are going extremely well. In spite of the fires, in spite of the COVID shutdown, my company is doing great this year. We're now scheduling installs till in the February and March of next year. And we've been rolling and rocking. It's very, very exciting and very encouraging. So I think things are going very, very well at the grassroots level. There's tremendous interest both in solar and on-site storage. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I want to end the year on a very positive note.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I do think that is a great way to end. I want to thank the Senator once again for being here. I want to thank Jenna Price for joining us from Sacramento, Ruben Aronin and the Better World Group, one of our partners down in Southern California and LA. Lorenzo Christoph, thank you for being here. All of our members, we couldn't do this without you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Please continue to be members. Please join our other webinars. Please be part of Climate Safe California, as you all are. So once again, thank you all for coming. We look forward to seeing you next time. And I very much look forward to the day where we can all gather together in person at the Advanced Energy Center or at Y Green or at one of these other locations. So thanks again. Much appreciated. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Lorianne.
That was great, Duran. You're such a good facilitator. Really, really good. Really, really good. See you
Thank
later.
you. I appreciate it. Take it easy. See you later.